Welcome to Tamarindo Podcast, hosted by me, Brenda Gonzalez, a political nerd and nonprofit capacity builder.
And me, Ana Sheila Victorino, a queer well-being enthusiast and mindset coach. We are a Latinx empowerment podcast discussing politics, culture, and how to keep your calma with well-being practices and self-love.
Welcome to the show. Woo!
What's up, Tamarindo amiguis? Welcome to the latest episode. What's up, Brenda? ¿Cómo estás? ¿Qué onda?
I'm fine. I will share real quick, because this is my opportunity to do so, that you are all invited to our event, Cultivating Financial Liberation. It is October 5th. Make sure you all sign up. We have made this event free. It is at the Pop Hop it's so fun to say the Pop Hop. It's at the Pop Hop at 6 o'clock. Well, technically it'll start at 6:30, but we're saying get there around 6 so you have plenty of time to find parking and join us. It is going to be a fantastic opportunity to get together. And if you can't make it, but you know folks in LA, please share that event with them. All of our events are always at tamarindopodcast.com/events. So there's my announcement. Ana Sheila, ¿qué pasa contigo?
¿Qué pasa conmigo? So I've been binging this show that I grew up watching. Have you ever seen, Brenda, or heard of, you probably have, The Amazing Race?
Yes. The Amazing Race. I have never watched it, but I do remember one of my good friends, Evelyn, way back when it first came out, was like, we should do it. And I was like, sure, because I'm down to do whatever Evelyn wants me to do. But I have never watched it.
Okay, so basically, for folks that don't know, this show, basically teams of two are traveling around the world, competing in lots of like challenges and obstacles. And then the team that, and then they get eliminated along the way. Y'all, I'm like breathing hard, Brenda, because we have been so busy, and I ran to get the mic so we could record on time, and I was still late. But anyways, maybe I'm just feeling into the rush of the competition of the show. But basically, every leg, folks get eliminated, and then the two folks that finish like at the end win $1 million. And when I was little, I grew up and this was my favorite reality show. I loved it because, growing up, my parents we didn't have the resources or the means to travel like internationally beyond Mexico. Like the furthest I ever went to outside of the US was Mexico until I got to college and whatever. And so for me, watching this show, I was in love with, like, I just wanted to travel the world and I couldn't. So this was a way that I got to sort of experience what it was like to travel around the world. So it was very special. And I was growing up, I was very competitive. So I wanted to be on the show so bad. And I just kind of forgot about it. And I started rewatching the last season. The new season is about to start. And I freaking loved it. And now it makes me like want to apply. But one of the other things it did.
Yes, go for it.
I know
you've mentioned it to me before, actually, a long time ago. You're like, oh, would you ever want to do The Amazing Race? I was like, okay, I guess. Yeah. You've mentioned this before, actually.
Yeah.
Many years ago.
And so I kind of forgot about it. And now I'm like, frog, like I really would love to be on this show. But it also got me started thinking about, because you have to be like, the obstacles are kind of a mix of like memory, physical endurance, things like logic and puzzles and things like that. And it made me like kind of just want to get better at like everything that would make me be like building stuff. I'm like, I want to be better at building stuff, or also swimming. So basically now I'm like on this like hunt to just be in the best like shape to be on this show, so that I will, who knows, maybe I'll get to be on it one day. But one of the things that got me to do is to finally sign up for swim lessons, because there's a swim challenge in the last episode. And I'm like, I am not a good swimmer. And recently I got to go to this lake, and I actually did this like big thing for me, which was literally just like in open water, swim from one rock to another. I have never done that, Brenda, because I'm not a good swimmer. So I've been very scared.
I will never do that. So that's great for you. That's terrifying. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And so it's something that's kind of scary to me, but that I've been wanting to do. So like, I guess what I'm saying is I'm excited to finally, I'm excited that this pushed me to do this. And I'm also pushing people out there. If you've got something that you've been wanting to work on, this little hot like dream that you've had, this is a time. Can you sign up for lessons for whatever it is that you're like, I want to do this? So that's my little shout out for
I'm
getting
going to use
people.
that opportunity. Yeah, that gave me a perfect platform. You threw me a softball, and so I'm gonna hit it with the bat. And if you're thinking about starting something and something creative, you're also invited to Encuentro, the creative retreat that I'm co-planning with Ocupación. It's going to be on February 15th through the 19th, President's Day weekend of the following year. There's still a time to apply. We said that the deposits are due on the 30th, and a lot of people have already met that deadline, but we know that some folks might need a little more time, so we're willing to work with you. All you have to do is go to tamarindopodcast.com/encuentro. You can find all the information there. So as Ana Sheila said, if you've been thinking about something, aviéntate. Here's your opportunity.
Aviéntate.
Here's your invitation.
Aviéntate, atrévete, all the things. But okay, switching over to what we're actually, the focus of our episode and our interview today. Today we're speaking to Brenda Equihua. She is the founder of the brand Equihua, which she defines as portal wear and Cobijawear, which I freaking love. I love that name. And she will share more during the interview. But they say they make things for brave souls. But I'm excited to talk to Brenda because I actually met her several years ago when I was first starting my own entrepreneurial journey. So I just love seeing like our community follow through on their dreams and actually have success with it. That makes me so happy. So I'm excited to reconnect with her after years of not seeing or connecting with her. So I'm excited to share that interview with y'all. But it also made me think a bit about style and how we choose to present ourselves and all the ideas around like gender, masculinity, femininity, culture, age, like dressing age, quote unquote, age appropriate, all these things that go into how we present ourselves and how we show ourselves to the world. And I know I've had a very complex and evolving relationship with style and how I present myself. And so I want to ask you, Brenda, to start off, I want to ask you to offer up any reflections on these themes of style and how we present ourselves and maybe how that's changed for you over time.
Yeah, well, the way I present myself is with a sensible shirt and pajama bottoms at the bottom. That is what the clothes that I wear currently. So I'm in desperate need of style support and style help, but I'm also incredibly lazy since the pandemic because I don't go anywhere. So if you are, now that we're on YouTube, you will see that and if you follow me on any sort of social media, you'll see that if I find an outfit that works, I will wear it until it disintegrates. That's how I approach style now. If it looks good on me, you're going to see it 100 times because I just don't want to spend money on clothes as much as I once used to. But of course, it creates panic when there finally is an opportunity to get together for something. For example, when we went to Raizado Fest, I had to like quickly put like outfits together because otherwise it's like going to be the same thing every day. I'm about to go to Spain and I know they dress really nice in Spain and I'm going to some sort of professional thing. So I'm like, shoot, I have not like worn pants or shoes in 3 years. So it's my style has really changed. I also really like to just be comfortable. Old Brenda back when I was 20 was looking a little bit like more stylish, probably had heels on, but to me, it's all about a sensible shoe. I absolutely love my Tevas, for example. I love hiking boots. I really slowed down in the style department because I'm all about being practical. So that's how I approach fashion. What about you, Ana Sheila?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed so much because I'll take it all the way back, and I think I've shared this with you, Brenda, but when I was little, one of these like really strong memories for me was being 10, being on the playground, and I dress in the way that people in that time, or people maybe still say like a tomboy. And there was a little boy on the playground who was like, "Hey, are you a boy or a girl? Because you dress like a boy, but you look like a girl." And up until that point, I just wore what I felt good, and then that was the first time that I really was like, oh, I'm supposed to dress a certain way because I'm this gender. And I had never crossed my mind until that point, right? And so that kind of changed and affected. Then I sort of like overperformed on like the feminine aspect or whatever to sort of cover what I really felt like, how I really wanted to express myself. So that definitely affected me growing up. And then the other thing that really affected me is that I kind of didn't want to stand out. Like I didn't want people to like put a lot of attention on me. I didn't like to be the center of attention. And I had this fear of like, oh, well, if I try to look pretty or if I try to look good or stylish or all these things, what if I try and people don't say that I look good or they don't like my outfit? And so I had this fear of trying for fear of rejection. And so that held me back from being more playful with my style or like feeling better in my clothes. And now I'm actually at the point where I sort of have gone the opposite of like when I was younger, like not really being very bold or trying new things. And like the things that I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to be more playful with my fashion. more bold. And I'm not super bold, but I'm trying to be bold for me, you know, like I'm not all the way out there, but I'm being bold for me. And that does mean playing with more colors or weird patterns or like weird things that I would have felt before too scared to do. I'm doing it. And then the last thing is like, I actually am just really wearing clothes that make me feel sexy because I never did that. Like I never did that. And I'm like, if not now, if not now, when? I don't want to look back and be like, I never felt sexy in my clothes. So I'm at the point where I'm really like, I'm gonna do the things that make me feel sexy, that feel bold for me and that feel fun. So I'm like now sort of being more playful with my fashion and style, like more than I ever was, which is kind of interesting, right? Because you would think that more in my 20s I would have done that, but I'm like, si no ahorita, then when? So that's a little bit of like how I've sort of been expressing
I mean,
myself.
everything you're sharing is very relatable because I mean, I think it's part of it is age as well because I definitely had meltdowns getting ready for school because of like, is this going to look cool? But
Right.
I think how I describe my lack of caring about fashion is mostly because I'm 40 years old and I just don't give a fuck. And so it's what happens. It's like the evolution of just getting more comfortable in our skin and being able to either play or not play, whatever you want. So all of you that are not yet 40 and you want to look forward to what you have in store is that a lot of that self-doubt that comes into like, am I good enough? Is this fashionable? Can I be sexy? All of that is going to start to shed away as you get older and more comfortable in your skin. And of course, that's not to discredit that there are societal pressures, especially for women, that make that process even harder. So I love that you are going to have more fun with fashion, and I love that we have a guest that is totally pushing barriers with fashion, and I can't wait to hear from her.
Yeah. So with that, let's get to the interview, y'all. It's so wonderful, Brenda Equihua, to have you on Tamarindo. It's crazy because we randomly met 5 years ago in a workspace in downtown LA, and to see what you've been able to achieve with your brand Equihua, see where you're at. It really inspires me. It brings me a lot of joy to see our community like truly having these dreams, going after them, and having them like be or become a reality. So I just want to just open up by saying like it's awesome to have you on the show. It's awesome to see what you've been doing with your career. So thank you so much for being on Tamarindo.
Oh my God, thank you for having me. And more importantly, thank you for your patience with me because I know it's like uh there's been so many like I've been wanting to be on here and then there's other things that happen. So I'm just grateful that you're like, okay, like we'll try another time or that you've been like patient with my schedule.
Yeah, I mean, I know life be lifing. Life, I mean, I've been in that position, and like I think the most important things we can have is grace for ourselves and for each other. So I appreciate you still, making the time because I know you have a busy schedule. So appreciate you
I value that so
también.
much. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, pues thank you for
I
being on the show. I wanna, let's just get right into it. Like I said, I'm really inspired by what you've been creating. I read that you call your brand and your pieces portalwear and cobijawear, and I love the term. I love that you created. I don't think anybody. I'm like she has to have created that, right? Like nobody else is. Well, maybe no. You can correct me, but I just love to have a word that means something to us culturally like that, like a cobija. It means so much to so many of us, right? It means so many things, and to attach that to fashion is just, I love it. And so I would love for you to share with the audience like where these terms, what they mean, right, for folks that are not familiar with them, and how you originally got started, like how you came to create these terms.
Yeah, so the idea of the portalwear came to me this year, and Cobijawear is something that I had been hearing a lot of people actually describe the brand as. So
Ah,
a lot of it is also just like listening to the way that people are expressing themselves about the brand, because I do think it's important to pay attention to that. Like, how is it being received? And I think one of them, like, yeah, I don't remember. It was from a comment section, and then I started to see it more and more, and I was like, okay, that's cool. This is how people are thinking about what we do. And the portalwear was more something like internal, that I had been processing for a long time in terms of how do I describe what we're doing? And that has been such a challenging thing for me because it's so intuitive. It's not something that I don't spend a lot of time thinking about how to describe it. I am more engaged in doing it in the way that I'm feeling it, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
I was like, I know when I'm creating, I know what it feels like, but when I need to put it into words, I'm not sure that it fits in with the terminology that currently exists in fashion, right? Which is
Mm-hmm.
ready to wear, contemporary apparel, like couture. And I was, and I mean, I still describe it as luxury because it's what people understand, but like luxury, streetwear, there's so many different categories. And I just felt like we are really in our own lane. Like we're operating from a place that's more frequency based than anything else, right? It's like on some Alice in Wonderland space shit, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like we're when I say portalware, that is literally the process of how we create. We
Yeah.
are having these conversations that are beyond visual stuff. They're beyond a photo, it's beyond clothes. We are like engaged in the world of play and imagination in a way that is connected to something outside of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where these ideas come from, and they keep informing the work. And sometimes we start with an idea and with the story, and then I mean, I have a lot of conversations with God. Like I'm always like, show me where I need to go, show me what I need to do. So for me, and it's not even from a religious standpoint, like I don't practice a religion. To me, it's more of like connecting with yourself, and like God can be many different things for so many people. So I just want to make sure to say that because I I have my own relationship with God. So
Yeah.
we have conversations. I ask a lot of questions. Hey, like this is how I've been feeling. Like I want you to show me where I need to go with this. What do I need to
Mm-hmm.
do? What's really important? What's in my heart. So how like and you planted this seed inside of me. And so we're in this together. you
Yeah,
know?
I love that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I want to back up a little bit. So tell me how, like, the first concept, which I think maybe is Cobijawear, like, what we first saw from you. Like, how did you originally get started? Where did this come from?
The cobija concept came from basically I'd started my brand in like 2016, and I spent 2 years trying to figure out what it really needed to become. And a lot of that was entangling myself from the experiences that I had had previously in design. So I'd have like over 15 years of experience in working in luxury and these like very like fashion houses that work in a very like traditional format in terms of creation and story, the kinds of inspiration that exists there. And when I started my brand, I knew that I had important things that I wanted to talk about and connect with, but I had to learn that the hard way that whatever world I came from and whatever that process was, didn't have to be how I approached my work. So for 2 years, it was just me trying to figure it out. And then on 2017, or 1 year, 2017, I think it was, I decided to take on a full-time job because I wanted to just unplug and relearn, like connect to myself without the worry of having my finances tied to my brand.
Yeah.
So I spent that time working somewhere and just thinking, and a lot of journaling and all that stuff. And to be honest with you, I think the number one thing that connected it all for me was one day I wrote down, what's a classic in fashion, and I made a whole list. So like, a denim jacket, like pair of jeans, a white, a white tee, like all of the things that we wear that we consider classics. And then I made a separate list. What's a classic to you? Meaning Brenda, the person, and how, and like my childhood and all that stuff. And a lot of cultural references came into that list. I wasn't intentionally trying to pair them together. Up until that point, everything that I had been doing had just been me trying to figure out who I am, what I'm about. If I was an animal, what animal would I be? Stuff like that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And one day I hate this part of the story because it's like not romantic and not cute. I was on my way to Six Flags. This is the truth. I was in the back of a van. I was in the back of a van with my brother and my family. And I remember I was just sitting there as we're on our way there, and the image of a cobija like hoodie came into my mind,
Mm-hmm.
and I was so frustrated that it come to me in that moment. I was obviously like,
Yeah.
I was happy, but I was frustrated because I
Yeah.
couldn't do anything about it. And so I had
Yeah.
my brother, like, told my brother, I was like, stop the music. I have a big announcement to make. And everyone was just looking at me like, what's up? And I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, the craziest thing just happened. I'm gonna make like um clothes or outerwear, whatever I said at the time, out of cobijas. And they kind of just looked at me like, okay. But my nephew
Yeah.
looked at me, he was like, that's cool, Tia. But like
Uh-huh.
they couldn't see what was in my head, like what was in
Yeah.
my mind. Like I had a very clear vision. And then the following day, I just started to work on the idea. And I spent
Yeah.
like all the time that I had after work and while I was at work thinking about it,
Mm-hmm.
obsessively,
Yeah.
until I was able to create a proto successfully. And then once I saw the proto, I was like, holy shit, this is fucking good. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
that
That's
was the,
amazing. So you just had this moment. It's like it was this like whoosh, like mind blown, like a message from divine, whatever you want to call it.
it is. And that's how it happens for me every time. It's a
Right.
series of like disappointments. Like the beginning is hard. It's always so hard. It feels like a trek. Like you're going up. It feels like when
Meaning
you're on
like
a
you have the idea and then it feels really hard to
sometimes
or
it's not even that you have the idea, it's that you have the feeling it's like when you go on a hike and you're like, I just need to go on a hike. I know that a hike is good for me, and I know that
right.
I'm going to feel good when I get to the top, right? And then like
Yeah.
when you have an idea what it's going to look like on the other up there, like like you've been there before, and you just know, like that's sort of kind of how an idea for me works, is like you're just going through all of the different stages. Like you start off really uplifted, you're proud of yourself for showing up. Then you're kind of like, okay, this is getting a little hard, getting a little thirsty. Like, it's not feeling like the way that I thought, or like, should I go back? I mean, depends on what kind of day you're having.
Right.
And every day
Totally.
you're a different part of it. But when you get to the very top, you're like, oh man, this feels good. Sometimes like it sometimes, and it's happened to me before, where I'm like, wow, this is not going to work. I worked on a kimono one time that was like, shit, like I spent 2 weeks on this, and then it doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're always like, for me, the process is like, it's always whatever it needs to be in the end. So I've learned to try not to get frustrated with the process, you
Mhm.
know just know like, okay, this is a part of it. Part of it is like being bad for a long time, and
Yeah.
trying and showing up and having bad ideas, and through these bad ideas I will get to the idea that this belongs with.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a good point. About like just staying committed to kind of glean out the parts that then lead to what the ultimate whatever you're creating, right? And being able to stay committed to the process, right?
Yeah, and I think, well, one thing that's really important, I mean, I try to talk to my niece and my nephew and like all the kids that I know about, a lot of the time that's when people give up, right? They're like, damn, I suck.
Right.
Like you thought an idea and you're like, oh, this is bad. I'm bad. It's like, you're not bad. The idea is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Once you learn to look at it outside of like you will get to, it'll make the process easier, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
You won't take it personal. You're like, oh, no, no, I'm not bad. The idea is bad. I just have to try a different idea until the right idea becomes, the good idea.
Right. Or sometimes there's like good in the bad ideas, right? Like I've been writing more. I've been writing more, and I, was working on a story that I then performed that it ended up going really well. And I
Yeah.
remember I was working with a writer, and she was just like, just write the whole story. Just write everything. Don't worry about it like being perfect now. Just put it out there. And I had such a hard time like not wanting to edit as I was writing, and like kind of not wanting to see like the bad parts of the writing. But like it was from seeing all of it, including stuff that I didn't end up using, right? And like seeing the bad, it was like from there that I like was able to tweak it into good. But I wouldn't have been able to make it into what it was if I hadn't started with the bad, that then I could see how to make it good. But it was like not judging what was there and then applying that judgment to myself as like being bad because there's bad work here. So I totally resonate. And I think that's true for so many different, whatever you're creating or whatever kind of work or whatever you're doing with them.
The bad is information.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like
information.
data.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And it's us like not losing the attachment to that, right? As like how we view ourselves. So who would you say your pieces are for?
Who are my pieces for? That's you know what? I try not to think about that
Mm.
because I think if I
Yeah.
think too much about it, it's gonna get in the way of what I think it needs to become.
Yeah.
But I know I mean, I know based on the type of emails that I get and the type of support that I'm getting, that I understand the person that's receiving it,
Yeah.
as opposed to who they're for.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're
Yeah. 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 I
I'm not
love,
making
and I
it
love
for,
that way.
yeah, I'm not making it for someone specific. It is being received by a specific type of person.
Mm.
And I think that that person is honestly the best kind of person I can ask for.
Yeah.
That's why I have these conversations about, I don't see the people who are receiving it as like customers, quote unquote.
Yeah.
I know that's the word to describe them because we live in this like capitalist society, but for me, these are people who they're the reason I can live out my dreams.
Mm-hmm.
They are amazing. Like that, I feel really connected to their energy, and they're the best kind of people. They're sweet, they care about the planet, they care about how they treat their neighbors, they're care about self-growth. They yeah, they're just very kind and compassionate humans.
Yeah.
That's how I see them,
I love
very
that.
understanding. And I just know, just from interacting with them, like when we send out an email, the kind of emails we get back, like if we're having an issue with something and we're very transparent, they're very patient with us. They understand where we are as a company. And for the most part, it's people, either like people of color or, people who appreciate art, artistry, people who are, interested in culture. Uh, but I'd say at the very core, it's just people who are just kind and compassionate, good
Mm.
human beings.
I love that. Well, because I think like investing in a piece of yours is like really, I think, because I would call it high end, right? And that's obviously that's subjective, right? But from where my background and my experience with fashion, I'm not, super in the fashion industry, but for me, it feels high end.
Yeah,
But I feel like an investment in one of your pieces is a thoughtful investment, right? It's an
totally.
investing in you. It's investing in a vision. It's investing in the way that you are showing up, right? And I think I want to go into it a little bit more. Like, for example, for me, I don't have one of your pieces yet. I would love to. And for me, what I love about it, and this is all just personal, right? But for me, what I love is that it is a way to sort of show off or present like some of my cultural background or things that I really connect with through what I wear in a way that's a little bit bolder, that does feel como more high end, that feels very
Yeah.
cool. And I think for me, like why I love your brand is that like for a long time I didn't want to be bold. Like I was scared to be bold. I was scared and like it's like finally getting to the point where you can truly be bold and show your individuality while still like connected to something collective, right? And I think
Yeah,
and it's so
totally.
beautiful to be able to kind of show off your culture with like a piece like yours that's like special and unique while still feeling like rooted in community. And that's kind of how I feel about your brand.
Totally. And I feel like we are existing in a very unique space, which is very exciting for us. For me, I feel like I'm in the best position I can be as a creative because I feel so aligned with the people that are receiving the work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're connected. Like you care about things I care about, and it's this, there's this level of reciprocity that goes into that exchange. Like I care that you care, therefore I will care more. And I will
Yeah.
create like better pieces. Like I honestly like we have these conversations at the studio where like when I first start to work with somebody that like doesn't really understand what the standards are, I'm like, don't even talk about it from like that's just what I want. I'm just like, people are saving money to buy our pieces.
Yeah.
People are saving their hard-earned money to buy our pieces. They are saving for an entire year. This can't leave if it doesn't look as beautiful as it should be, you
Yeah.
know?
Mm-hmm.
Because we need to honor that, honor the people who are working hard to like acquire this. It's not an easy thing for some people. For some people it is, and that's great. But
Right.
like, and that's also part of the reason why when we do like the bigger sizes, like when we do the 2X or the 3X sizes, we really only introduce those sizes into a design that we still feel can honor the original design or can be as close to comparing itself to even a size small or medium or whatever, because we want to make sure like I never want to make something for somebody else that doesn't have integrity behind it, and
Yeah.
that also means design integrity.
Yeah.
So yeah, we everything that you're saying about the brand and how you perceive it is also, I'd like to think like the kind of working conversations that we have. We're creating a video, we also try to think about like, well, what is this video about? Like, and it's not that we're like totally focused on how we'll be received, but how do we feel about it? It's
Mm-hmm.
very very human,
Yeah.
as opposed to like, you know everything else. So that
Yeah.
makes it a very exciting process for me because it helps me to feel like, oh, if I continue to work at my most like human spirit self, then which is how we all wish to work, right? Like, oh, I feel the most myself creating this, and the more of myself that I give to this, the more that it's working. Like that's the best case scenario, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I feel like we've been sort of touching a little bit on a topic, the topic of accessibility. So I feel like this can come up sometimes when, you know, I think Latino or Latina folks are doing anything entrepreneurial. I think sometimes we feel the pressure and responsibility to sell whatever we make or services at a cost that can accommodate as many folks as possible. So I'm curious how you think about that when setting your prices or thinking about what you're creating.
Oh man, I think about it all the time. Like
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
Every day I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
In an ideal world, I would like everyone to have one. It's funny because you know the hype culture. I think that there's brands that love the idea of like, oh, it's sold out and people didn't get one. I'm the opposite. Like
Yeah.
when people message me and they're like, I'm really sad that I didn't get it before it sold out, it pains me. I
Yeah.
feel I'm sad that you didn't get the piece that you wanted, you know? Like I want you to have a piece. Why would I want you to not have a piece? Because it makes me look good.
Yeah.
No, I wish you had it. I'm sorry it sold out. You
Yeah.
know? So for me, but I think about price point all the time because I have these conversations as I'm trying to become a better business person because that's
Yeah.
important to survival
Totally.
because capitalism. I'm having conversations with other people and they're telling me, you need to raise your prices at a full markup. Our pieces would be over $1,000, if we were
Mm-hmm.
to sell them at the traditional way that markups happen in the market. And I struggle with this a lot when I have these conversations because I'm like, I understand that part of the reason that we're not financially where we need to be is because I'm not pricing these exactly where they need to be. But then the other conversation I'm having is that I love the people who are buying these pieces. And I know if they get priced at a certain amount and they stay there, I might be having a conversation with a different group of people, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And I I don't know what's on that side. I know where I am now and I know that I love the community that I'm having these dialogues with through fashion, and I'd like to continue to stay in this energy field.
Yeah.
So for now, this is what we're doing, and it doesn't always make sense, you know, and it makes things more challenging. And I know on the flip side, there's a lot of people that are like, what the hell are you talking about? These pieces are like $710, right?
Right.
But there's so much that people don't know because everything has been outsourced, right? When you go to a restaurant, you're able to like see if you go to a restaurant where they're like making the food, like you see them making the noodles and like all the stuff. So you're like, oh, I can kind of understand the process because I'm able to see it behind the glass, right?
Yeah.
In fashion, we are not exposed to that at all. Like, when was the last time you accidentally saw someone sewing something?
Right.
Unless you
Right.
see it on social media because somebody's showing you the process, you're not going to see that walking down the street. You're not going to go to a retail play store and see any machine. It's all
Right.
just closed, right? So there's so much that goes into it, and a lot of people don't know, oh, that's why it costs the way that it does. It's like we are making everything here in LA. Like that's labor. Like we're not
Right.
making things in Asia. We don't have things are not being sewn by like children,
Right.
and everything is hand cut one by one. My sister cuts
Mm-hmm.
everything, you know,
Yeah.
and we have to pay to have someone QC it. Why? Because we want to make sure we get the best product. I don't want to send you crap. Why would I
Right.
sell you crap? I
Right.
don't I wanted someone checking it to make sure that it looks good, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want someone to press your garment because you deserve that. I don't want them to
Yeah.
just sew it and like put it in a bag. I want it to be done with care and intention. And there's so much that we do that the person receiving it wouldn't even care about, to be honest with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Like we're like, oh no, we gotta recut that because it doesn't match this exactly, you
Right,
know?
people wouldn't be able to tell this small thing, but I
Absolutely.
think but I think that still the people that are investing in your pieces like know they're special, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
because you make them feel special. And I think that's so important what you're calling out around the process and about being sustainable and ethical in the way that you treat the people that are making your pieces, right? That
Totally.
all goes into it.
And there's a whole nother side of it too, that like when you're running a small business, you don't get the benefits that the big corporations get, right? So we can't get our blankets for the price that anyone else can get them for, that's, selling hundreds of thousands, right? Like,
Right.
because we can't bring in cartons. Like we can't import
Yeah.
all of the big cartons. We have nowhere to put it because we're a small brand. So, I don't have like $10,000 to just have a warehouse,
Yeah.
a month, like, and just to have it sitting there.
Yeah.
So we don't get the price cuts. Like we don't get the good prices for our, and also we care so much about quality. Like I one day was like, I don't like our zippers. Like I don't like what we've been using. I want a new zipper. And I found the most perfect zipper, and it's
Mm-hmm.
made in LA, and it costs us like literally 10 times more.
Yeah.
I don't even think we even tell people that, you
Yeah.
know? But it's like butter. Like if you put on one of our pieces,
And
it's
you zip up that zipper.
oh girl. Like when I put it on, I'm just like, oh my God, like this feels so good,
Yeah.
Everything, even the way we cut our linings, like everything is cut in one direction. Most people don't know what that means. It's all cut, napped
Yeah.
down. That means when you put your arm in that sleeve, like the softness of the fabric goes in a downward direction, which means it
Mm-hmm.
it just feels good.
Yeah. No, I love
So
that. And I think, yeah, perdón.
no,
Go
no,
ahead.
I'm just saying like there's a process, there's the kickbacks that big corporations get that we don't get. There's also like I'm not a trust fund kid. Like
Yeah.
everything that I've
Yeah.
done is, from scratch. Like
Yeah.
so there's so much, but
Yeah.
but
No,
these are conversations we're having all the time.
right. No, I love that you really gave that background because I think a lot of people don't know. And I think also we get to have nice things. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like our community gets to have these nice pieces, and that really does require investment. And then you as a business owner, you get to like actually get paid for the work and it's not just you creating, it's the years that you've put in to get to this place where you can create something
Oh my
of this
God, I went through
caliber,
hell.
right? And those are years of investment that you put in to get to this point, right? And I think we get to, as consumers, as like people in the community, we get to recognize that because a lot of folks don't have any problem buying these high end like white people brand stuff, right? But like then when Latinos are creating, it's like, people have a problem with it. So I think there's a lot more that we can be thinking about when we're
I always tell
talking
people,
about this.
why are we willing to pay $9 for an avocado toast, but the taquero raises our prices to $3 and we're up in arms.
Right. And then but yet like white people are selling Mexican inspired food, high ass prices, ¿verdad? So I
Right.
don't know. Yeah, we can go on and on about that, right?
Exactly.
Pero okay, so I want to ask you one last question before we go into a rapid fire questions. But what are you really excited about right now in fashion, and perhaps specifically thinking about? I'm just curious. Like I feel like I'm seeing a lot more Latino and Latina designers, that have really come up on their own, like you have, are not like from wealthy backgrounds. They've really done this on their own. So I'm just curious what you're seeing like among maybe other Latino and Latina designers. Like what are you excited about? Anything, just give us some fashion insight for folks that are not as like in the know. At least I'm not.
Honestly, I know this is gonna sound crazy. I'm not that much in the fashion know. I'm kind of working a vacuum. So like
Okay.
I I I try my best. I'm inspired by a lot of people around me. I try my best not to look at other designers and what they're doing because it's so easy for it to seep into your I think I absorb a lot of information around me. So if
Yeah.
I pay too much attention, I don't want it to start to impact my work. in
Yeah.
the way that I create, which I highly suggest for a lot of people too who are designing, because I think that there's a space for all of us, and I'm like, I'm only trying to carve out my space, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we all can exist in this space, but it's very important to think about where is my space within the big picture of our collective, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
um but I think that there's so many exciting things going on. I mean, beyond just the fashion part of it, is just like the I love to see the way that everything gets interpreted by different people, you know, like
Yeah.
love like the Nopalera brand, I think is doing really cool things. Like I love that it's like this high-end soap, and I'm learning a lot too from my peers as far as how do they explain things. Like I've seen her in the
Mm.
comments talk about like, why is this soap cost this much, you know? And I'm like very inspired by like the transparency that exists there, you know? And then I mean, I love like what Willie Chavarria is doing. I think that the way that he's approaching like his work is really cool. And like, you know, the aesthetic that he's carving out, it feels like he's in his own kind of lane in terms of that. And then like Brittany from Shop Latinx, like the community that she's creating behind that. um Kids of Immigrants, like I mean, they're doing really cool things. Born and Raised, I mean, like is an amazing company that I think is so like beloved here in LA, you know.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I just think that there's so many exciting brands and people like doing really cool things like beyond fashion. In terms of like the people that exist in the fashion vacuum, I'm more inspired by the people who are working outside of that medium in ways that are, to me, like more punk. Like
Mm-hmm.
because they're like, oh, that's a machine I'm not going to be a part of. Like we're doing our own shit over here, you know.
Yeah.
Those are
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
people that I'm the most inspired by, because I feel like uh the fashion industry, like um it's existed, needs a major shakeup.
Yeah.
And it keeps wondering why it continues to be in the position that it is. And it's like, well, just stop what you're doing.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like look, like it's because the industry just keeps going because it's chosen this specific pace. And when you participate in that pace, there's no time to think. You
Yeah.
need time to process, what are we actually doing here? Stop
Yeah.
everything, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that the brands that are working at a pace where they're able to create and connect with their audience and take that information and create better product because of it and tell better stories because of it, to me that is like the future, you know.
Yeah.
I'm very very inspired by that, even from like a film, like the people who are working in film, like in
Yeah.
there's just so many, there's so many exciting things happening in our community. And I really feel like we are trailblazers, you know.
Yeah. I,
We're not part
I
of the machine, but we're
yeah.
there, we are creating the future, you know.
Yeah. I think what you're pointing to, and I think there's a lot of us that are kind of pushing back against where capitalism and consumerism has taken us, which is like this point. And I feel like we've reached this point where like if we continue like this,
We're dead, yeah.
we're dead. Like the world, the client, I mean the
Yeah,
globe, but us as humans are literally like we're experiencing physical and emotional and mental health issues as a result of the pace and the structure of like our current capitalism and consumerism. And I think that you're so right that like I feel like it really is the people that are willing, and I hope that this is true, the willing that are push against that pace, push against that model that is not sustainable, not for the earth and not for ourselves, right? And that's what you're speaking to about these brands. They are doing things in a thoughtful and therefore more sustainable way, right? For the world, but also for their health.
totally. And I think that yeah, I hope that that is the future. And I feel
Yeah.
like it will happen. And that's why it's so important to support the brands that
Yes.
you feel really good about. And I
Yeah.
just want to make sure to repeat that, because everything that you spend your money on has so much power. If you
Yeah.
like an artist, if you like what they're doing, if you feel like their work is intentional, if you like a brand, that's where your money should go.
Yeah.
Because you're supporting something outside of the product. It's an idea. It's so easy to do what is convenient,
Yeah.
and but I just feel like, especially right now, there's a lot of people, like, we're having conversations with each other that are very difficult, and you're just looking at people that are so talented, and you're like, fuck, like, you know everybody doesn't have the vulnerability to have these conversations with their audience. And the sad part is when it happens and a company closes or an artist can't make their art anymore, and they're like, they weren't able to share that,
Yeah.
like, and I mean, last year, this year, I had an artist friend who was like, hey, this is what's going on, to their audience. And like, it's been really nice to see them continue to do their art, because I'm like, oh my God, everybody collectively is like going through stuff, and it's like, can we just continue to build this reef of beauty?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
can we just continue to support each other? Like, if you like a podcast, listen to it. If you like someone's music, keep listening to it, keep supporting them, follow them, share their work. Like, it doesn't all have to be money,
Yeah.
but that's how we continue to build a better world.
Yeah.
It's like, engage with that energy.
Yeah, I love that. Just being like, yeah, like whatever, in whatever way it looks like, but can you support what you care about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can it
Yeah.
be even reciprocal, even if they don't know it, right? But like, can you be
Right.
reciprocal? You are receiving wisdom, pieces that you love. How can you be reciprocal in that energy? And I think that would make the world a better place if we were all thinking about how we're being reciprocal and how we're contributing to whatever we're a part of. ¿Verdad?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay, wait. So I'm gonna ask you our three rapid fire questions. So number one is what's that?
I can give you rapid fire answers, but I don't know.
Yeah,
My
we'll
brain.
see. You'll see. Yeah. And the first one is matraca. So something that you're celebrating or loving. It can be anything. Concept,
Learning.
place, thing.
Right now I'm in the stage of learning things that I haven't been very good at. So
Yeah.
I'm reading a lot of books about, like, just budget stuff, business stuff. Like, I'm mostly like a creative artist, and I'm learning from, like, people that work at companies who are like running operations, and how they build things and stay on deadline, and like learning what apps they use,
Yeah.
to stay organized. So I'm right now tapping into the other part of my brain that I need in order to continue to create good ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting. You're like, oh, ¿por qué no me vienen ideas? But and then you start like actually reading and listening, and you're like, all of a sudden, ideas they start just
Yeah,
coming out.
exactly. I'm
Beautiful.
asking a lot of questions right now. Like, I'm reaching out
Mm.
to a lot of people that I think have a lot of knowledge to share. And I think for a long time I was kind of like, damn, I kind of want to reach out to this person, because I feel like they could knowledge share with me. They know
Yeah.
things I don't know. But as an entrepreneur, you're like, sometimes you feel conflicted, because you're also in a position of what is considered leadership. So when you
Yeah.
reach out and you tell someone, hey, there's something I don't know, there is a moment of vulnerability there, right? And so I've been learning to be like, bitch, you don't have to know everything. Like, okay, you're a good artist, like, fashion and all this other shit. Like, you don't know anything about this other world, or you have so
Yeah.
much to learn, and it's okay to reach out and be like, I need help, and
Yeah.
you have resources that would be helpful to me, so that's
I
been
love that.
exciting.
Beautiful. I want to give a matraca to, y'all can't see it, but I want to give a matraca random. This is random matraca to your hair, because it's like so you've been it's so long and so beautiful. And I actually have been growing out my hair, which is
Beautiful
curly,
too.
which
Oh
is
my God, I love
yeah.
it.
So I'm
I
curious what your relationship is with the length of your hair and how that's like how that's been feeling because I have a thought around my hair. So I was just curious if there's like a something behind the length and how you've been
Yes,
connecting
there
with your hair.
absolutely is. Yeah, I have a very strong relationship with my hair. To me, my hair is a very large part of my energy, and I'm very protective over it, like people touching it and stuff like that, you know. I grew up in like a very honestly like very magical realism bruja type of like home.
Yeah.
So to my mom, our hair was very sacred. We had a lot of hair rituals. Like we would get our hair cut during like a full moon, and we always had hair masks, and like these routines were very important to us. Like I had my hair up to my knees or down to my knees when I was like in fifth grade, you
Oh
know,
my
like
God. Yeah.
and braiding and all that stuff. So I've always kind of had longer hair, and I at some point I would cut my hair shorter, but now I really want to like harness this sort of empress very feminine energy. Like I'm manifesting like being a mom someday. So
Mm,
I am like my hair feels well, like the longer my hair is, the more maternal I feel, if that makes sense.
mm, yeah.
Uh, so because I'm like, oh, there's wisdom in the length of my hair. Like
Mm,
it's been through a lot of stages with me, and
yeah.
you know, I just feel very close to it.
Yeah.
And so I've just been growing it, and I'm trying to keep growing it and also keep it healthy because obviously like the split end game is can get a little crazy the longer it gets, you know,
Totally.
um
You got to
that,
take care of it, like little trims and things like that,
but
you
it's
know?
a thing in my family. Like my sister has long hair, my niece has long hair. Like hair is very much a part of our story.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's beautiful and it has so much power. Like when I've seen pictures of you with your long hair, I'm like, it's so
Oh, thank you. It
powerful.
means so
That's
much.
so powerful. Like I see it, like what it means to you just from like seeing it. And I know similarly me, my hair, you know, it's very distinct, very curly, and it's become
So
such an
beautiful.
thank you.
It's
Pero
so
también me da, it gives me so much strength. I feel so much strength in it, with it. And I've been growing it longer because, yeah, there's something about the length that makes it feel even more powerful. And it's interesting that you say that longer makes you feel even stepping into more feminine. And for me, actually the longer that I've been growing it, because I kind of, my energy feels like a blend of masculine and feminine, and actually growing it longer feels like that blend for some reason. Like it feels both very feminine but also like an element of masculinity in the length as well. So it's
yeah.
been interesting just to connect with it and grow it out and see how it feels as I keep adding to the length.
Yeah, and it's really all about like whatever you're connecting to, right? Because I feel like there's plenty of people who feel feminine with short hair. It's just that
Right.
for me, um, I think it's also I feel more connected to my mom, and to
Mm,
me, she has feminine energy.
yeah.
She had long hair when we were growing up too, and so I'm like, if when I think of like being a mother, I think of my
Yeah.
mom, how amazing she was, and so like
Yeah.
growing out my hair makes me feel closer to that, you know.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I'm so glad I asked. I'm so glad I shared that
Yeah, no,
matraca.
thank you for asking.
Yeah. Okay. So what about basura? What's going in the trash for you right now? I know for me it's the gas prices, pero
What's going in the trash? I mean, on a personal level, bad habits, like things
hmm
that I'm detaching from. I'm trying my hardest. It's been such a bad habit to break, going to sleep late. I don't know
mm,
what it is. I just
yeah.
cannot. It's the hardest thing for me to like
Yeah.
unplug and just go to sleep at 11. If I
Yeah.
could sleep by 11, I honestly feel like it would change my entire life. I know that sounds crazy, but like I just can't. I'm working hard at it. I'm getting closer, but
hmm
that bad habit is my basura, and I want to throw
Yeah.
that, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So your something is sort of calling you to rise earlier. Yeah.
Mhm.
But are you more of a night owl, would you say? Like, is
I
that why it's
am,
been hard?
but also like again, I'm practicing like motherhood, right? So
Right.
like children wake up early,
Right.
so I want to be a morning person. In my ideal world, the way I'm training myself is if my child wakes up at 7, I want to be up by 5, and I
Yeah.
want to do 2 hours of
Right.
me before I get to my child. I know
Mm-hmm.
moms are going to be listening to this and be like, that's hilarious, bitch.
Right. Right.
Like you have no idea how this works.
Which you're in for. Yeah.
I'm just like dreaming that
Yeah.
I'm gonna be able to keep parts of myself and also
See.
be able to give
And I
to
mean, I think I mean, I think this idea of like training for the future that you want, I think for number one is excellent. Like I'm writing this down,
I even have
but
a
I
partner,
think,
so that's funny.
yeah,
But
but I think like having the intention of what you want to create is also is really strong. So maybe a lo mejor no te levantas a las 5, but or like maybe it ends up being six, right? But it's like if you have it's you know like shoot for the moon and you land among the stars or whatever.
yeah,
But
exactly.
but
Right now,
okay,
I'm
and
gonna be a 7 a.m.er, but we'll see. Yeah.
what's that?
Right now, I just want to be like a 7 a.m.er,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like you said, I'm working myself towards having better routines and better goals. I have learned that a 2 hour routine is very good for me. Like
Yeah.
having 2 hours before I start my work to do like my workouts, all my prepping and my
Yeah.
journaling stuff, it always feels good. So I
Yeah.
need to account for that. Yeah.
Yeah, just paying attention to what you I mean, what I think you're doing great in like knowing what you're it sounds like you're very connected to yourself and you're you know what you're being sort of called to, and it's just continuing to make those steps because I mean, changing a habit takes time, and I think sometimes people are like, I want to change a habit y no pasa así, and they kind of give up, but it's like you have it's a long-term process.
It is, and I have to remember to forgive myself when I don't meet that.
Right.
That's just not being mean to myself and being like, you loser, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's not ever helpful.
Not helpful, yeah.
Okay, and then lastly, what do you want to give your calma to, like, or not? What's giving you calma right now? What's helping you stay a little bit more grounded through this crazy life?
Spending time, solitude is very important to me. The time that I spend with myself, I feel very connected to God and the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And the routines that I have that connect me to myself are everything to me. This was the first year in like my whole life that I learned to have the best boundaries I've ever had. And being okay with saying no to things because it's not what I'm supposed to be doing today. Like
Yeah.
letting my intuition guide all of my decisions. Like, I'm sorry I can't come out today. I'm being called to be in my house and I'm being called to like meditate, or I'm being called to like do certain things for myself, and like putting myself first above anything else.
Yeah.
That's been bringing me a lot of peace. That and scheduling things. Like I'm trying to be better at like having a more organized, scheduled, regimented sort of life, and like more of a routine bitch.
Yeah.
So that's helping me a lot to make time for the other things.
Yes, and I totally feel you on all of that. And I think sometimes folks like feel like when you are put everything in your schedule, then you're like feeling you start to feel like that, like you're like a robot. But I think for me, I've also gotten much better at scheduling. And for me, what I've realized is like scheduling a lot actually creates more freedom for myself,
Yes.
because now I'm not storing a million things. The things have been scheduled, so now I don't have to think about those because all I got to do is look at my calendar. And now that with that other time, I have a little bit more free time for myself to not be so robotic.
Totally. And you know what's really cool that I've been doing too? I've been separating things. So, for
Yeah.
example, I have like a journal that's just for personal stuff
Yeah.
and for like personal goals. And then I have another calendar thing that's just for work stuff. And
Yeah.
that's also why I divided my Instagram accounts to personal and business. So, because I feel like I'm manifesting different things in each category. So, if they're
Yeah.
more focused, they are more likely to be amplified and get to me faster.
Yeah. I love that. Oh yeah, Brenda. Well, I didn't even anticipate this interview to be this long, but I think I've just really
Oh, yeah.
enjoyed just kind of how our conversation has flowed. So I just want to
Same.
thank you so much for sharing your process, your journey. We're happy that you're out here creating and beautiful things and look forward to seeing what you keep doing with your brand and everything else. So thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Tamarindo Podcast is Brenda Gonzalez and Ana Sheila Victorino, with production support from Josie Melendez and Augusto Martinez Delgado of Sonoro Media. Our theme song is by Jeff Ricards. If you like our show, please rate and review Tamarindo Podcast or share an episode with a friend.